Welcome to Kentucky Public Pensions Authority's School Board webinar. My name is Ashley Gabbard, and I'm a retirement benefit consultant within the Division of Member Services. Joining me today are several KPPA representatives to answer your questions throughout the presentation and at its conclusion. As most of you are probably aware, 2020 legislation changed the name of our agency from Kentucky Retirement Systems to Kentucky Public Pensions Authority. While our agency name has changed, KPPA still employs the same great staff which hope to offer you the same exceptional service. You'll see our new logo during the presentation today and throughout our website and on our publications and forums. And if you haven't already, please update your email address within Member Self-Service for information like this and other news regarding your retirement benefits. During the presentation today, we ask that you keep in mind Kentucky Revised Statute 61.661, which requires KPPA to administer your accounts in a confidential manner. Please do not share sensitive information such as your Social Security number, your member ID, or your PIN. If you have specific questions, please contact a KPPA counselor at 1-800-928-4646 with your 4-digit PIN to discuss confidential information on your account. For today's webinar, we'll give a quick tutorial on how to use Zoom, which is the platform that KPPA uses to conduct virtual presentations. We will discuss some basic information concerning the benefits of KPPA and eligibility requirements, which are separate from other retirement systems. We will define reciprocity and discuss how KPPA determines service in the past for our classified school board members, as well as how that's currently determined. We will also briefly mention our service purchases, but we'll focus specifically on summer months. I'll guide you through the process of retiring with only KPPA service, as well as exercising the terms of the reciprocal agreement. We'll review health insurance specifically through KPPA, and lastly we will discuss KPPA's requirements to return to work after retirement. Now let's get started. At the top or the bottom of your screen, you should see a Zoom toolbar. On that toolbar, you have the option to click Chat, Raise Hand, or Q&A. In the far right corner of the toolbar, you'll notice there's an option to Leave Meeting. If you're having technical issues during the webinar, or you need to leave the meeting at any point, simply click on Leave Meeting to excuse yourself. If you're unable to stay the duration of the meeting, I hope you will view a recorded version of the webinar online or join us for another live webinar. To register for future webinars, you'll log into your Member Self-Service account and scroll to the bottom of the home page. Click on the tile titled Seminar Registration. There you'll find a list of webinars or in-person presentations that are specific to your benefit tier. The question and answer function is used to ask general retirement questions to the KPPA representatives. Please do not share confidential information in the Q&A forum, in the chat room, or when asking questions live if time permits. Q&A is the preferred means to communicate your questions as it allows our staff to answer them chronologically and ensures no question goes unanswered. The chat room is primarily used for KPPA staff to communicate with the attendees as a whole regarding things such as technical issues or links to online resources. If you do need to communicate with the KPPA staff privately, you may do so in chat by selecting to Panelist Only. Again, private chat does not suggest you should share any of your account information. That should only be done over the phone or in an appointment with a benefit counselor one-on-one. And to prevent interruption and allow the webinar to end on time, we will not use the raise hand function. While we encourage your interaction with the KPPA staff, we find that oftentimes we will answer your questions during the presentation. It's helpful to jot down your questions and ask at the conclusion of the webinar if those questions go unanswered. As I previously mentioned, 2020 legislation passed House Bill 484, which established a new governance structure for Kentucky retirement systems. KRS, as an agency of the Commonwealth, is now known as the Kentucky Public Pensions Authority, or KPPA. This bill established a new County Employees Retirement System Board, which stands apart from the KRS Board. The KRS Board includes Kentucky Employees Retirement Systems, or KERS, and the State Police Retirement Systems, or SPRS. Both the County Employees Retirement System, also known as CERS, and the KRS Board will report to the KPPA Board. The KPPA Executive Director will work with the CEO of both CERS and KRS boards to carry out the statutory provisions of the systems. KPPA still services over 386,000 state and local government employees, ranging from classified school board employees, EMTs and firefighters, to uniformed state troopers and other cabinets which fall under the Personnel Department. Plan funding is made up by three components: member contributions, employer contributions, and return on the investments. Let's take a look at how each of these play a part in funding KPPA. Any employee meeting the requirements for membership is required to contribute a percentage of their gross wages, also known as credible compensation. We'll discuss credible compensation in more detail in the following slide. The percentage contributed is set by state law based on the member's benefit tier and type of service. Non-hazardous members contribute 5% of their credible compensation, while hazardous members' contribution is 8%. Now, it's important to note that members with a participation date on or after September 1, 2008, which includes all Tier 2 and Tier 3 members, will contribute an additional 1% to the KPPA Health Insurance Fund. KPPA refers to this additional 1% paid as HIC, or Health Insurance Contributions. It's also important to note that health insurance contributions are non-refundable. The second piece of plan funding is the employer contributions. Employer contributions are established by the General Assembly based on recommendations provided by KPPA's actuary. These rates are subject to change each fiscal year. KPPA's Board of Trustees is charged with the responsibility of investing in the system's assets to provide for the benefits of the members within KPPA. To achieve that goal, the board follows a policy of thoughtfully growing our asset base while protecting against undue risk and losses in any particular investment area. Let's move on to discuss credible compensation. Credible compensation is any earnings that must be reported to KPPA and are used to calculate retirement benefits. What's included in credible compensation is any salary, wages, tips and fees, lump sum bonuses or severance pay, payments for compensatory time for Tier 1 members, employer-provided payments for purchase of service credit, and lump sum payments for sick leave when participating in the alternate sick leave plan. What's not included is living allowances, expense reimbursements, lump sum payments for unused vacation or annual time, and lump sum payments for unused sick leave if the agency participates within the standard sick leave program. Credible compensation is necessary to understanding how your benefits are calculated, which we will discuss later within the presentation. Not only has legislation changed our name, but it has also changed retirement eligibility and the structure of the systems over the years. In 2008 and 2013, statutory changes designated members to a specific benefit tier, which is based upon the member's initial participation date within any state-administered retirement plan. It's important to note here that for those members with service in Teachers' Retirement System, or TRS, your participation date there could impact your retirement benefits with KPPA. For example, a member began participating with TRS in July of 1999, but left after the school year to move out of state. She returned to Kentucky January of 2009 and found employment with the Department of Education in a position participating with KPPA. Had she taken a refund of her account with TRS, she would have began participation with KPPA as a Tier 2 member, which we will discuss in just a few moments. Since she left her service with TRS, when she retires reciprocally, she will be considered a Tier 1 member due to her initial participation date with TRS being before September 1, 2008. Now, members' benefits are broken down into one of three benefit tiers. Tier 1 members participate in a defined benefit plan and are considered to have a participation date prior to September 1, 2008. Tier 2 members also participate within a defined benefit plan and have a participation date of September 1, 2008 through December 31st of 2013. Tier 3 members participate in what's considered a hybrid cash balance plan and have an initial participation date of January 1, 2014 and after. A hybrid cash balance plan is still a defined benefit plan, but it does have characteristics of a defined contribution plan as well. All three benefit tiers pay a lifetime payment to our members. Retirement eligibility looks different for each benefit tier and is exclusive to your retirement benefits within KPPA. If you have service in another state-administered retirement plan, it's important to know and understand eligibility requirements for that particular system. For Tier 1 non-hazardous members, to retire with unreduced benefits or without a penalty, a member must be age 65 regardless of service or have 27 years of service regardless of age. To retire early or with a reduced benefit, the member may retire with at least 25 years of service but less than 27, or retire at age 55 with 5 years of service credit. When KPPA determines retirement eligibility, we will consider the combined total service credit among all state-administered retirement systems, assuming the member chooses to retire from all systems simultaneously with Reciprocity. We will get into reciprocal service in the following slides. For Tier 2 non-hazardous members, the member must meet the requirements to retire based on the Rule of 87 or by attaining age 65 with at least 5 years of service credit. The Rule of 87 states that the member can retire at a minimum age of 57 years old, and the member's age plus their service must equal 87. For example, if a member is age 57 with 28 years of service, he or she must work an additional year, making the member's age 58 with 29 years of service at the time of their retirement. The member's age in this example of 58 plus the member's 29 years of service equals 87. In order for a Tier 2 non-hazardous member to retire with a reduced benefit, the member must be at least age 60 with 10 years of service credit within any of the state-administered retirement plans. Again, in order for a member to use service outside of KPPA, they must retire reciprocally with the other state-administered retirement plan. Tier 3 non-hazardous members have the same eligibility requirements as Tier 2, with the exception to retiring early. Tier 3 members are not permitted to retire early and would need to meet the eligibility requirements stated, either the Rule of 87 or age 65 with 5 years of service. Otherwise, they will be required to take a refund of their account by either lump sum payment or rollover to another qualified plan. Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 members can be further defined by their retirement calculations. Tier 1 and Tier 2 members use the same formula to calculate their retirement benefits, but the variables within the formula are different. To calculate a Tier 1 or Tier 2 member's retirement benefits, you must take the member's final compensation, multiply by the benefit factor, multiply by the years of service. For Tier 1 members, final compensation is defined by the highest 5 fiscal years of service for non-hazardous and the highest 3 fiscal years for hazardous. For Tier 2, final compensation is defined as the last 5 full fiscal years of service for non-hazardous and the highest 3 full fiscal years of service for hazardous. The benefit factor is also calculated differently. For Tier 1, it's set by statute and based upon the member's participation date, type of service, and the system. For Tier 2, it's determined by the type of service and the number of years earned at retirement. Of course, the member's years of service are based upon a combination of current service, prior service, and purchase service, as well as sick leave for some. Tier 3 members' calculation is substantially different. We calculate their monthly benefit by taking their accumulated account balance and dividing by the actuarial factor based on their age at retirement. The accumulated account balance consists of 4 components: member contributions, employer pay credits, base interest, and upside sharing interest. You can find this information and more by visiting our website at kyret.ky.gov or logging into your member self-service account at myretirement.ky.gov. Member Self-Service, or MSS, will allow you to project your first eligible and first unreduced retirement dates, as well as use real-time information to give you the most accurate estimate of your retirement benefits. Keep in mind when using Member Self-Service that the calculations assume your service and payout from KPPA only. If you do plan to retire with Reciprocity, you will need to determine your benefits with the other retirement plans separately from KPPA. Let's talk about what it means to retire with Reciprocity. Kentucky Revised Statute 61.680 and Kentucky Administrative Regulation 1020 provide for a reciprocal agreement between KERS, CERS, and SPRS, which all fall under the KPP umbrella. The Judicial Retirement Plan, or JRP, the Legislative Retirement Plan, or LRP, and Teachers Retirement Systems, or TRS, are also considered under the same statute and regulation. The reciprocal agreement provides that at the time of early, normal, or disability retirement or death, a member's total service in each system will be used towards determining retirement eligibility for retirement benefits and for determining the level of coverage available to the member under group medical insurance plans. Kentucky Public Pensions Authority administers benefits for KERS, CERS, and SPRS. Other state-administered retirement systems which can use the reciprocal agreement to determine retirement benefits are Teachers' Retirement Systems, Legislators' Retirement Plan, and the Judicial Retirement Plan. All of these systems are located in Frankfort, but each system outside of those administered by KPPA have different physical locations and filing requirements. Now that we have a basic understanding of retirement benefits and what it means to retire reciprocally, let's discuss classified school board members. So what is a classified school board employee? It's a member participating in CERS, which works for a local board of education in a classified position. So what's the difference in a classified school board employee and a certified school board employee? Classified school board employees are typically non-instructional, meaning they do not teach. Now, teachers and professors are considered certified, and they participate with Teachers' Retirement System. Classified school board employees include bus drivers, cafeteria workers, custodians, secretarial staff, teachers' aides, and bus monitors. While I understand most employees working for a local school board would probably consider their positions to be hazardous, for retirement purposes, classified school board employees are considered non-hazardous. Now, just to share some history of school boards, most joined CERS in the mid-70s, while others joined a little sooner in the 50s and 60s. Now, if you're currently a certified school board employee, that doesn't mean you're in the wrong place, assuming you have previous service which was considered classified. Those members will want to stick around while we discuss the processes of filing with KPPA and TRS to exercise the reciprocal agreement. The process of KPPA determining service for our classified school board members is a little different from our non-school board members. A school board employee must work an average of at least 80 hours per month based on the member's actual days worked in order to retain the service. Non-school board employees are required to average 100 hours per month, averaged over a calendar or fiscal year wages. A school board employee also works a set number of contract days, which is converted into months of service credit. A classified school board employee must work a minimum of 180 days in order to receive 12-month service credit. Let's look at the history of how KPPA has determined school board employees' service credit and review the chart used to convert the members' actual days worked into months of service credit at the end of each fiscal year. For those of you that have reviewed your account history and member self-service, you may notice that you did not receive a full 12 months of service credit for each year that's listed. Prior to the 1996-1997 fiscal year, service credit is awarded for each month that wages were reported, provided the service averages over a calendar or fiscal year. In 1997, the procedure to determine service changed. To determine how to award service credit, actual days worked are divided by 20 and rounded up to the next whole number. And beginning in the 2000-2001 fiscal year, KPPA determined service credit by taking the actual days worked and dividing by 180 days and then multiplying by 12 months. While these practices have changed over the years, KPPA auditors still use the rule which applies for each specific period of time to award service to our members. To determine service in the future for those members that are in the process of retiring, KPPA requires Section H, Employer Certification of Leave Balances and Final Salary of the Form 6000, which is the notification of retirement, to be completed by an authorized agency contact of the school board. The agency contact must verify your anticipated number of actual days worked through your termination date for KPPA to award service appropriately. Section H is not required for members that currently participate with TRS and are retiring with Reciprocity. Typically, 180 days represents one instructional year. If a school board employee works less than 180 days within a school year, they cannot earn 12 months of service credit even if they earn wages in each month. Also, if a member works 180 days but terminates May 31st, the member cannot earn 12 months of service credit despite their actual days worked. In this scenario, the member is employed from July 1st to May 31st, which is 11 months of the fiscal year. The member would earn wages based on their contract being complete, but would only be awarded with 11 months of service credit, assuming he or she averaged over their actual days work since they terminated before the end of the fiscal year. Lastly, if a school board employee works more than 180 days in a year, they cannot earn more than 12 months of service credit. You may find this chart on the KPPA website to determine how actual days worked will be converted into months of service credit if less than 180 days. Now that we understand that school board employee service credit is defined differently than non-school board employees, let's discuss some options that the member has to complete their years of service. While KPPA offers over 30 types of service purchases to our Tier 1 and Tier 2 members, and 6 types of service purchases to our Tier 3 members, each service purchase type has different eligibility requirements. For a full list of service purchases, you can go to the KPPA website at kyret.ky.gov. Go to Members and click on the appropriate benefit tier. Now there you will find a full list of service purchases available and the required forms to determine your eligibility. There's also additional information under Publications and Books and Guides. Today we're going to discuss summer months specifically. Most service purchases require a member to be actually active and participating in one of KPPA's systems, but that's not the case with summer months. A member currently participating in one of the state-administered retirement systems, such as TRS, JRP, or LRP, who is contracted by a local school board, a university, community action agency, or school for the deaf or the blind, and they earn 9, 10, or 11 months of service credit, well, they have the option to purchase up to 3 additional months to complete a year if needed. To be clear, summer months do not count towards health insurance vesting, and they are not used to determine eligibility for Tier 2 members. Go to myretirement.ky.gov to estimate the cost to purchase your summer months with KPPA. If you decide to purchase these months or any other service credit for which you're eligible, please submit the proper paperwork required, and a counselor will calculate an official cost to finalize the purchase. Once a KPPA member ceases employment, they will need to determine which option will best fit their situation. Ideally, a member ceases employment or terminates to retire, assuming that they are eligible. So what happens if the member is not eligible to retire at the time of their separation? The member has the option to leave their contributions at KPPA until the member reaches retirement eligibility based upon age. Most accounts will continue to earn interest, and upon reaching eligibility requirements for their tier, they can begin to draw a monthly retirement check and elect insurance coverage if eligible. By leaving the contributions at KPPA, the member remains in the benefit tier determined by their initial participation date, which also determines when they can retire, how their benefits are calculated, and if KPPA will pay a portion or the full amount of their health insurance premiums. The third option is to take a refund or rollover of your contributions. By refunding or rolling over your contributions to a qualified IRA plan, you will receive a one-time payment representing the money you contributed plus interest. Now, in most cases, the employer contributions will remain at KPPA and are forfeited by the member when choosing to remove the contributions from the retirement system. There is one exception to the rule. Tier 3 vested members will be refunded their member contributions as well as the employer pay credits and any interest that's attributed to those amounts. By taking a refund of the account, KPPA is required to withhold 20% in federal taxes, and you could be subject to an additional 10% excise tax. Most importantly, taking a refund or rolling the contributions satisfies any benefit obligation KPPA has to the member. Therefore, the member forfeits any future benefits. Now, this includes, but is not limited to, retirement benefits, death benefits, as well as insurance coverage. Additionally, if the member later returns to a position required to participate with KPPA, they will be enrolled within the appropriate benefit tier, which could impact their retirement eligibility, their contribution amounts, their health insurance, and more, with no possibility of opting back into their previous tier. Members with KPPA and TRS service should be especially cautious when considering a refund or rollover from either system, as your earliest participation date within any state-administered plan will determine your benefit tier. Unfortunately, we have seen too many instances where members took a refund of one system, and by doing so it put them in a different benefit tier, causing them to lose invaluable benefits that cannot be reestablished. I encourage any member that considers a refund or rollover of their account upon ceasing employment to first contact KPPA and their reciprocal retirement system to discuss how doing so may impact their benefits. For those members that are ready to transition into retirement, there are a few key pieces of information to note, especially for those retiring reciprocally. The ideal time to file for retirement with KPPA is approximately 45 to 60 days prior to your anticipated retirement date. You may do so by completing the Form 6000, also known as the Notification of Retirement online, by logging into your member self-service account, or you may print the form from the KPPA website. Now notice the ideal time to file for retirement with KPPA is approximately 45 to 60 days prior to retirement. Other retirement systems may require additional notice if retiring reciprocally. In order to retire with Reciprocity, your application for retirement with KPPA and TRS must have the same retirement date. And lastly, you will need to indicate you have service in another state-administered retirement plan by choosing all applicable systems in Section C of the Form 6000. If you wish to separate your accounts, you may file a Form 2022 or separation of accounts. Now, I caution you in separating accounts as this may impact your retirement benefits. KPPA requires all retirement forms to be valid, meaning signed, dated, and, when applicable, witnessed by the last business day prior to your retirement date. You can submit this paperwork by uploading the documents in your member self-service account, by submitting via fax, or dropping it in the mail or KPPA lockbox outside of our building. Please keep in mind that TRS not only has a separate application, but they also have separate filing deadlines. While KPPA will accept your retirement paperwork up until the last business day prior to your retirement date, TRS may require more notice. Now, if you're eligible, you will receive a health insurance application from both KPPA and TRS. Regardless of the system you choose to take insurance, both systems will require an application to be completed and returned. One application will elect your level of coverage, while the other application will waive insurance. If KPPA does not receive a valid insurance application, whether you choose to take the insurance through KPPA or waive your coverage, you may be defaulted into one of KPPA's standard plans. Now keep in mind that taking insurance through KPPA does not eliminate TRS fees that may be associated with your insurance coverage. Please discuss the health insurance costs with KPPA and TRS before making a decision. A member can change their level of coverage, the system which they take their insurance, or even waive coverage completely during open enrollment of each year. Before we look at an example of a member filing for retirement with Reciprocity, let's take a quick glance at the health insurance plans offered by KPPA. Kentucky Public Pensions Authority offers both Medicare and non-Medicare plans to eligible retirees. Any eligible individual that wishes to participate in the medical insurance program through KPPA must be receiving a monthly retirement allowance, whether it's the member or the beneficiary named. Also, KPPA may pay a portion or the full cost of insurance depending upon the member's years of service and level of coverage chosen. For those members that exercise the option to retire reciprocally, all eligible service among any state-administered plan will be used to determine health insurance benefits. For those members with a participation date in any of the state-administered retirement plans prior to July 1, 2003, KPPA will use the percentage contribution plan to determine their portion of the monthly premium. Here's a breakdown of how the percentage is determined. Members with 20 or more years of earned service will have 100% of the contribution rate paid toward single-level coverage by KPPA. Members with less than 20 years but more than 15 will have 75% paid. Members with less than 15 years but more than 10 will have 50%, and members with less than 10 but more than 4 years will have 25%. Any member with less than 4 years of service will pay the full cost of the insurance. To determine the percentage of the contribution rate paid toward health insurance that will be paid toward dependent coverage for hazardous duty members, only hazardous duty service should be assumed. Members with the participation date July 1, 2003 through August 31, 2008 participate in the first level of the dollar contribution plan. Eligibility for these members shall not be provided until the member has earned at least 120 months of service in any state-administered retirement system. Now, eligibility for members participating on or after September 1, 2008, which are our Tier 2 and Tier 3 members, shall not be provided until the member has earned 180 months of service in any of the state-administered retirement plans. Non-hazardous members whose participation date began on or after July 1 of 2003 will earn a monthly contribution for insurance of $10 for each full year of earned service. Hazardous members whose participation date began on or after July 1 of 2003 will earn a monthly contribution for insurance of $15 for each full year of earned service in a hazardous position. The monthly insurance contribution will be increased July 1 of each year by 1.5%, and the annual increase shall be cumulative and continue to accrue after the member's retirement for as long as a monthly insurance contribution is payable to the retired member or beneficiary. The non-hazardous contribution amount for fiscal year 2020 is $13.58 and will be increased to $13.78 effective July 1, 2001. The hazardous contribution amount for fiscal year 2020 is $20.37 and will be increased to $20.68 effective July 1, 2020 as well. Again, these are the levels of insurance coverage with KPPA based upon participation date and service type. The other state-administered plans, specifically TRS, have separate requirements for health insurance as well. It's important to understand how the insurance plans are administered separately before deciding which system you will elect insurance coverage. Now let's look at an example of how a member retiring with Reciprocity may look. Jane Doe is a certified employee of her local school board and currently participates with TRS. Upon her retirement, she will have 20 years of service as a teacher and therefore 20 years of service within the teacher's retirement system. Jane has 7 years of service that she previously earned with KPPA as a classified school board employee, and she plans to retire July 1st of this year. KPPA recommends that Jane should apply for retirement at both TRS and KPPA no later than May 1st, indicating reciprocal service on her retirement application. Jane will receive additional paperwork from KPPA once she has filed the Form 6000, or the Notification of Retirement, and will also need to finalize her retirement paperwork with TRS separately. She should also expect to receive 2 separate retirement checks, one from KPPA and one from TRS. While a health insurance application is not required by KPPA to finalize the member's retirement paperwork, an application to elect coverage through KPPA or to waive coverage is required by the last business day prior to Jane's retirement date. It's often that our members retire and then decide they would like to return to work in some capacity. Let's take a quick look at the KPPA requirements to reemploy after retirement. KPPA has 3 basic rules to keep in mind upon returning to work after retirement. You must have a break in service, you may not have any prearranged agreements prior to your retirement, and you may be required to file paperwork to notify KPPA of your reemployment according to the 12-month rule. A member retiring from any position and returning to work with a participating agency of the retirement system in any position must have a 3 calendar month break in service. Notice I did not say 90 days. Unfortunately, KPPA has had to void members' retirement because they counted 90 days from their effective retirement date and returned to work rather than honoring the 3 calendar month break in service which is set by statute. The member may not have a prearranged agreement with the participating agency of KPPA. If it is determined that a prearranged agreement exists, your retirement benefits may be voided. Both you and your employer must complete forms that certify that no prearranged agreement exists. If any of these requirements are not met, you may be required to repay all retirement allowances, dependent child payments, and health plan premiums paid by KPPA. Also, it's important to note that these are the requirements only for KPPA. You will need to follow up with any other state-administered retirement plans to determine their reemployment laws and will be expected to honor them both before returning to work. To further explain the 12-month rule, any member which returns to work with a participating agency of KPPA within the first 12 months of their retirement date will be expected to complete the appropriate paperwork to be reviewed by KPPA's legal team. Once they have reviewed the terms which the member plans to return, KPPA will send a letter advising that they have approved to return to work. The member's prospective employer will also be required to submit paperwork based on the role of the returning member. If a member returns to work with a participating agency of the retirement systems at least 12 months after their effective retirement date, the member is not required to seek a final determination with KPPA, nor will they be required to submit paperwork to return. For these details and more, go to the website and look for the Retire Reemployed Handbook under the Publications tab. If you have any questions regarding your account, KPPA is available to assist you. You can log into your member self-service account by going to myretirement.ky.gov. There you will have the ability to determine your own retirement estimates using real-time data. You can calculate service purchases, apply for retirement online, and even register for retirement seminars. You can visit our website by going to kyret.ky.gov for information regarding your retirement, such as reciprocity with other plans, and you can send your email request to kppa.mail@kyret.ky.gov. Now please keep in mind that this is not a secure email site, so we ask that you do not send any confidential documents or information to this address. We also have a fully staffed call center ready to take your questions. Be sure to have your 4-digit PIN number available to discuss confidential information on your account. You may also send us your forms and other correspondence by dropping them in the mail at 1260 Louisville Road in Frankfort, Kentucky 40601. This concludes our KPPA webinar. This presentation is for general information purposes only, so if you do have specific questions regarding your account, I suggest you log into Member Self-Service or contact a benefit counselor to discuss them. On behalf of myself and the other KPPA staff, we appreciate your participation in today's webinar. We hope you will join us again, and we ask that you take a moment to complete our short survey at the conclusion of the presentation. Myself and the other KPPA representatives will stick around as long as we need to ensure that all of your questions are answered. Thank you and have a good day.